Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is March 1st, and Bellinger has finally re-signed with the Cubs. Baseball is less than a month away. Let's do it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today? It is Friday. And I hope you like baseball, because after this, we've got two more TOPs coming out. Little hint. Just kidding. I'm not giving you guys a hint. If you guys want to see the teams coming out later today, stick around. By the time you're hearing this, one of them should be out or should be out soonish. I haven't really decided on the times for things yet, but they've been coming out at 10 and 11, so I think I might put this at a little bit at 10 o'clock, so I think I'm going to move the TOPs back an hour. So if you're listening to this within the first hour of it's coming out, the first one should be up around 11, and the second one being out at 12. But that is not what we're here to talk about today. Today is not a TOP episode, or at least this is not a TOP episode. We've got baseball to talk about as we gear up for a regular season. I haven't really come up with the schedule yet for the last month here before baseball begins. Obviously, the Soul Series is something that's going to have its own episode. We still have to do our predictions episode. So there is still a couple episodes that need to be released. I'm still working on the days and trying to do everything with school and everything. So bear with me on that as we get into the 2024 season. I'm really excited. I haven't made a whole lot of changes yet. I still haven't thought of a whole lot that will be different. But those will be coming, and we'll be here for the 2024 season. It's crazy to think that I've already been doing this for a year, and all of the ups and downs and how I've done so far. So I'm quite proud of myself, and I hope those of you listening are as well. If you are new here and you like what you're hearing and you love baseball, feel free to subscribe. Helps me out a ton, and we've got plenty of baseball news coming out for you guys if you know baseball, you may have already heard of these news, but I'm going to give my takes on some of them anyways. So let's dive on in anyways to today's episode. And first and foremost, be talking about Cody Bellinger. That is the big one for us today. One of the four finally off the board. Cody Bellinger is signing, or should I say re-signing, with the Cubs on a 3-year, $80 million deal. Now, this is a team-friendly deal. However, Cody Bellinger does get opt-outs after each one of the years. So for this year, he's getting paid $27.5 million. And if he chooses, he can opt out after this year, or he can stay with the Cubs. They'll pay him another $27.5 million in 2025, which at that point, he can then opt out again, or he can get the remaining $25 million in 2026. But Cody Bellinger, talking about him as a ball player, he has had a resurgence with the Cubs last year. In 2017, he was the Rookie of the Year winner with the Dodgers, finished 9th in MVP voting, and was an All-Star. And then in 2019, he did it. This time it was an MVP. He won it, an All-Star, Golden Glove, Silver Slugger. After a close battle with Yelich in 2018, Bellinger comes out in top in 19. COVID happens, and then from that point on, he was never the same. 2021 was historically a awful year for Bellinger, the worst year of his career. 95 games, had a 5.42 OPS. It was just bad. 2022 was still more of the same, except on a larger scale. He played 144 games with a 210 average, a 654 OPS, so a little bit better than 2021, but then again had a lot more games to do it in there. Dodgers say, no, unfortunately, Bellinger, your time with us is over. Thanks for the MVP and the World Series in 2020. Cubs take the chance on him, and boy, did it pay out. In 130 games, he reclaimed Cody Bellinger's status. 307 batting average, an 881 OPS, had 26 home runs, the most home runs since his MVP year when he hit 47, which is a crazy amount for Bellinger when you think about it, but he is back, a 307 average, is what he needed, and then, he's 20 stolen bases, the most in his career. Everyone had career years in stolen bases, though, with the bigger bags and no more Yachty. But Bellinger is back. That was kind of what we claimed away or took away from last year. The MVP is back. He looked good. The big question is that everyone's wondering is why it took so long. It was just over 100 days, I think I saw. And we still have guys. Blake Snell, 2-time Cy Young winner, still unsigned. Jordan Montgomery took the Rangers and helped them get to the World Series, win their first in their franchise's history. Matt Chapman, Platinum Gold Glove winner, one of the best defensive third basemen out there, all unsigned still. And I mean, I'm glad I didn't record the Cubs TOP yet, because I was going to talk about the Cubs and bash them probably. But this is what they needed. I was talking, I forget who I was talking to with, but the NL Central, it is really a cluster of a division. Those teams are all kind of good in certain aspects that are bad in the other, and then other teams in the NL Central can poke holes in that. So it's a very close division, I would say. The Cardinals last year were so bad because of their pitching. And then the Brewers are obviously so good because of their pitching. And the Reds are they lack professional talent, but had so much young potential kids. And the Cubs, they had these guys who were kind of still figuring things out, but were professionals in a way. Dansby Swanson really hasn't been the Atlanta Braves Dansby Swanson. He's been a great shortstop and a great addition to the Cubs, but he hasn't been all that. Seiya Suzuki, it was second year, still kind of adjusting to Major League Baseball. And then they just had guys that Showman and Steele were doing all they can. The Cubs were the average overall team there, because the Cardinals had offense, the Brewers had pitching, and it's just one of those things where the Cubs, it seemed like, didn't do enough this offseason to counteract some of the stuff. The Reds, I feel really confident in the Reds going into the 2024 season. And then I would look at the Cardinals and I would look at the Brewers. I was at a point where I was sitting here thinking the Cubs are going to come fourth in the division, maybe even fifth if the Pirates take huge steps this year. But here we are, they land Bellinger, and I think that's going to help them out in a huge way, because they really didn't emphasize the needs that they had and the needs that they needed to go out and get. And now with Bellinger, the Cubs roster seems a little bit more complete, if that makes any sense. I just felt like they were missing something. A big bat in the lineup, yeah, maybe. I mean, Ian Happ's good. Suzuki's okay. Christopher Morel, I think, is going to take huge steps this year. The pitching was getting Shota Imanga from the KBO, the Japanese League, the MPB. That wasn't enough, right? The odds they had, Hector Neris, the Michael Busch trade, it just wasn't doing it. They lost Yeimer Candelario, they lose Stroman. There was just not enough happening for the Cubs to emphasize the year they did. They finished 83-79, one game above the Reds. With the Reds additions, the Reds surpassed the Cubs easily. The Brewers won it with 92 games. They just lost Corbin Burns. They're not going to win the division this year. So, I mean, there's a huge thing. The Cardinals at 71 would last. They add Sonny Gray. Their offense is still there. Nolan Gorman, Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt. So the NL Central is going to look very different this year than it did last year. And there was at a point, like I said, that I didn't have faith in the Cubs. They could have been a postseason team last year had it not been from a dropped ball. So there are just things that, with this Bellinger signing, point forward to the Cubs. I like their chances a lot more now. I don't know if I still like him than, let's say, a Reds or maybe even a Cardinals team, but there is more hope for the Cubs, I would say, getting Bellinger. And I think Dansby said that too in an interview, saying that they needed to go out and get Bellinger. They do that. Now it's kind of, can you keep him, right? Will he opt out after the first year? Will he opt out of the second year? Pete Crow Armstrong is there. He's going to be up at some point this year, if not starting with the team. And he's going to be a huge, center fielder part to that Cubs team. So we'll have to see what happens there. But overall, a great move for Chicago to land this guy finally. Bellinger, $27.5 million. Could he gotten more? maybe, but the way the market was, it was just a weird offseason. So if you're Bellinger, I think you take this. If you have another amazing year, then you opt out, and some team is going to pay you next year. But I digress. Moving along now, let's talk about those Dodgers that got rid of Cody Bellinger and talk about how they got rid of Manuel Margot as he is heading to Minnesota in exchange from a prospect named Noah Miller, shortstop, heading over to the Dodgers. This is interesting for the Twins. Of course, the Dodgers acquired him earlier in this offseason when they got Tyler Glasnow from the Tampa Bay Rays. And there was a lot of news that, the Dodgers are trying to look for a trade and trying to find a way to suit and swap Manuel Margot. And they finally find that match in Minnesota. And Margot, granted, not the player he once was, but he is still an okay hitter, but a good defender. He finished 6th in Rookie of the Year voting in 2017. Kind of surprises me on that. But entering his age 29 season this year, last year he was 28 with the Rays and had an alright year, as one does when they're in Tampa. 82 hits, played 99 games, but of course Tampa Bay does a lot of platooning and a lot of weird righty versus lefty matchups. 264 batting average when on the field is 686 OPS, had 4 home runs, but then again he's not really known to be a home run hitter. What he is, though, is a good outfielder. He catches the balls. He's got a strong arm. But when he's at the plate, it's not going to do too much. This is an interesting move when you think of Minnesota, because obviously they have a lot of guys there who are, I guess, pure hitters in a way. Like when I think of the Twins, obviously you remember the Bomba squad from a few years ago. That has changed. Miguel Sano out, Nelson Cruz out. Those two were the mainstays of the Bomba squad. Now you got guys like Royce Lewis, Max Kepler, if he can figure things out a little bit, Carlos Correa. They signed Carlos Santana, and they also have that kid from, I believe, Quebec, Eduardo Julien, who is apparently going to be leading off most of the nights. Taking a look at Fangraphs here, they have they're suggesting a lot of platoons here. Kyle Farmer when it's a lefty, Eduardo Julien when it's a righty, Matt Wallner when it's a righty, and then Manuel Margot when it's left-handed, and then Willie Castro for Alex Kirilloff, depending on the days, how things go. But yeah, Manuel Margot is going to be a platoon outfielder type beat for the Twins. So, you can't go wrong with him. He's going to play a great center field. They did lose Michael A. Taylor this offseason, and Michael A. Taylor is essentially similar enough to Manuel Margot, where it's a good outfield, a good defense, but not the best hitter. Granted, Michael A. Taylor did have a very nice season, and I feel like Michael A. Taylor deserves a job somewhere right now. He's still a free agent. I think Michael A. Taylor needs to go out somewhere. Maybe it's Oakland. Give this guy some money. But yeah, Manuel Margot finds himself on the Twins lineup here. It'll be interesting to see how the Twins decide to use him. Like I said, I really wouldn't even know where to start. He does also have a mutual year for $12 million next year. Depending on how he does, right now I would say the Twins probably decline $12 million, but you never know. If he has a great year with Minnesota. It is in a very shallow division in the AL Central. The Twins are supposed to be leading the way, but we've said that before in recent years where they've kind of struggled to break away from the pack. And I'm sure teams like the Guardians, Tigers, even the Royals will be hot on the Twins' heels here. So we'll have to see what they can get out of Manuel Margot for the season. For the Dodgers, I think it kind of opens up a move here, or at least it opens up a spot to make a move, and that's what they did, because after they traded Manuel Margot, they also signed or re-signed Kike Hernandez, or should I say Enrique Hernandez, depending on how you want to call him by. His nickname obviously Kike, but in the last couple of years I think he's been going by Enrique. He was with the Dodgers in 2022. He spent most of his career with the Dodgers from 2015 to 2020 before going to Boston for 2.5 seasons before last year he got traded back to the Dodgers, and he has re-signed with them as well. Last year, Mr. Hernandez played 140 games split between Boston and the Dodgers, collected 110 hits, a 237 batting average, and a 646 OPS. With 11 home runs. Similar enough to Manuel Margot in a way where his defense and his arm kind of puts him through, his utility spots as well, because not only can he play the outfield, but he can also play second and shortstop, and that's something Manuel Margot can't do. So you also choose a smaller deal in a way, because it's a 1-year, $4 million deal instead of playing Margot $10 million. And, you're thinking, oh, it's the Dodgers, though. It doesn't really matter with money. Yeah, it doesn't, but in a way it does, because they didn't want to go too high over that luxury tax. They did shed a lot of payroll. JD Martinez is not there anymore. Lance Lynn's gone. Dave Peralta, Ahmed Rosario all kind of left the Dodgers. But they did re-sign, of course, Kershaw, Hayward. They did keep some players around. Hernandez will have a similar role that Margot is going to have with the Twins. Probably a platoon guy, give a guy a day off here and there. For shortstop, the Dodgers have Gavin Lux and Miguel Roja kind of platooning. In the outfield, Hayward, Chris Taylor, Max Muncy's other guys that they can kind of be platooning. So Hernandez will find some spots there, playing right field for Hayward occasionally, playing shortstop for Lux occasionally, maybe even a third base here or there. It depends on the matchup, depends on how they want to use him. I don't think he's good. He's definitely not going to be there every day, every game, that's for sure. But he's still an all-right hitter, and like I said, he is versatile, and I think that's why the Dodgers would want him to kind of have that role for the team in 2024. All right, Giants fans, cover your ears for this next segment, because you're not going to like the words that come out of my mouth. Brandon Crawford is signing with the Cardinals. Not sure on the deal yet. Didn't come out. I'm assuming it's for 1 year, but can't be too sure. Brandon Crawford, what a career this guy has had. 13 years, all with the San Francisco Giants. 2 times World Series winner, 3-time All-Star, 4 Gold Gloves to his name, and a Silver Slugger, of course. He's been a really great shortstop for the Giants in his career. Spent nearly 7,000 games. Whoa, 1,700 games. I don't know where I came up with 7,000. Almost playing for the Giants. 1,400 hits. 146 home runs, a career 715 OPS. He's had really great years batting-wise. 2021 specifically, that Giants magical run. He had a 298 batting average that year and an 895 OPS with 24 home runs, the most in his career. Last year with the Giants, obviously played a lot less. I think the least amount of games he's played as a Giants besides his first year and COVID year. Played 93 games last year, where he had 55 hits, a 194 batting average, and a 587 OPS, 7 home runs. Brandon Crawford, definitely not the hitter he once was. I think Brandon Crawford is the player who, in my mind, if I remember the right game that I'm thinking about, he's the only player in MLB history to go 7 for 7 in a game, I want to say. But yeah, Brandon Crawford, no longer a Giant for the first time in his career, is heading over to St. Louis. And if you're a Cardinals fan, I wouldn't worry about this too much, because I don't think it's for the reasons you think. Brandon Crawford's not going to be out there playing shortstop. They got the kid, Mason Wynn. That's the guy they want to use, but I think Brandon Crawford's going over to help guide him in the right way. Mason Wynn can throw a ball 100 miles an hour across a diamond. I think it's Brandon Crawford's going over to kind of give advice and be kind of that mentor type person for Mason Wynn. I think there was a comment from Wynn after he found out about the Crawford signing and said it lit a little bit of a fire for him, and that for spring he's going to be giving it his all. I'm pretty sure with with Tyler O'Neill not being on the Cardinals team anymore, Tommy Edman kind of gets moved from bouncing between second and short to now in the outfield again. for Tommy Edman, and Nolan Gorman's at second base. That shortstop position is opened, and I think maybe at the beginning of the season we'll see a little bit of a platoon from Mason Wynn and Brandon Crawford, but I think come the middle of the season, it'll be Wynn's job with Crawford kind of getting a game in every so often, maybe a potential DH game for him. But I wouldn't think too much of it. I think he's just kind of going to be there to help Wynn, to improve his defense and make him into a future cornerstone player for the Cardinals, because that's what they've kind of been doing recently. Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, Lars Nootbaar. The Cardinals have some young players right now, Brandon Donovan even, as they kind of reshape their team into something. Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, how much longer those guys going to be around for? I'm not sure on their contract status, if I could pull that up quickly. But yeah, I wouldn't look too much into the move. Otherwise, obviously Giants fans, it hurts because this has been your guy for however long you can think of it, 2011. That's a crazy long time here. So Nolan Arenado, he is locked up until 2028, but for Paul Goldschmidt, this is his last year actually as a Cardinal. That's pretty interesting because he's an elite first baseman still, despite being up there in age a little bit. But yeah, Brandon Crawford, for him even, this might be his last kind of like hoorah type beat. He's going to be 37. He's up there in age. The hitting numbers aren't there. His fielding numbers are declining at I wouldn't say a rapid speed, but since the magical year of 2021 for those Giants, Brandon Crawford hasn't been the same type of hitter he once was, really going back to 2018. He had a little help from COVID, from shortened stance, that he looked good in those 60 games. And then that carried over into an incredible last hurrah 2021, but 2022 and 2023 weren't it for him. He's old. He's not the player he once was, and I think this might be one of the last years for Crawford, but definitely a great player in his prime. And let's see what he can do for Mason Wynn and what kind of shortstop he can help him turn into. All right, now moving on, we've got a couple last bit of news here, last couple signs to talk about, starting with Austin Nola, as he is signing a simple deal with the Kansas City Royals, a $975,000 deal, so not even $1 million for the catcher. But of course, he is not the player he, had been at one point when he was with Seattle a little bit. Broke into the league late at the age of 29 with Seattle in 2019. Posted a 796 OPS in 79 games. That following year, COVID year, he had an 825 OPS between time with the Mariners and the Padres, which is when they traded him to San Diego. Since then, his days in San Diego have been limited. Got his most playing time in 2022, where he played 110 games, the most he has ever played in a single year, where he had a 251 batting average and a 649 OPS. And then last year just was not good. He was posted 19 hits in 52 games, a 146 batting average, and a 452 OPS. Not a hitter, not a guy that carries teams, I would say. But he is a decent catcher still, and of course he is brother of Aaron Nola, ace superstar pitcher from the Phillies. Is he the ace, or is it Zach Wheeler now? I'm not too sure who's gonna get the opening day nod for that Phillies squad. But of course, we're talking about the Royals here. And you have to kind of wonder what the move is for here, because they have Salvador Perez, they have Freddie Fermin as the backup catcher, and then they got the kid Blake Mitchell, who granted is still a little bit away from the MLB. They drafted him 8th overall last year in 2023, but he's essentially will eventually be the Royals catcher one day. So Austin Nola essentially is going to be the third string catcher in case either Salvi or Freddie get hurt, which is important to have, as a backup thingy, as a backup catcher. So I think you still take it, and you hope that you can keep him in AAA and not have to worry about him too much. But hopefully, if worst case scenario, one of your catchers gets hurt, he's there to play every so often. So won't get the most playing time, but it is still news, and he's still an MLB player worth discussing. Has a career 5.1 WAR, so he's still gotten his moments. And then a couple of minor league deals to mention here. Colton Wong is a fun one. He's heading to Baltimore on a minor league deal as he tries to fight his way onto a team where they have young kids all the way around. It's going to be a tough battle for Colton Wong, but of course, 2019, 2020 with the Cardinals, two-time Gold Glover, 20th in MVP voting in 2019, had a 784 OPS. Of course, he's not a hitter. He never would be a hitter. Last year in total between the Dodgers and the Mariners, played 87 games, a 183 batting average, and a 519 OPS. But hey, to be fair, in 20 games with the Dodgers, he turned it on. 300 batting average and an 853 OPS. Had 2 home runs in 20 games, which matched the 2 home runs he hit with Seattle in 67 games. So, obviously, not a great hitter, but he is still a great defender. But, entering age 34 season, he's been around since 2013, really. His rookie year in 2014, where he played 113 games with the Cardinals. Had a small stint with the Brewers as well, where he was actually pretty solid, to be fair, in those 2 years with the Brewers. But Colton Wong, he'll fight for a job there in Baltimore. And then Garrett Cooper is heading his way over to Chicago to try and fight his way onto the Cubs roster. The one-time All-Star in 2022, came into the league with the Yankees in 2017 before they shipped him to the Marlins, where he played from 2018 all the way to last year in 2023, where at the deadline they flipped him to San Diego, where he finished off the year. In total for him last year, 123 games, 106 hits, 251 batting average, and a 724 OPS. His time with Padres, a 725 OPS and a 239 batting average. So it was good for both the Padres and the Marlins. He is more of a hitter, I would say, possibly a DH for the Cubs every so often. Can play first base and a little bit of right field, but, his defense really isn't what Garrett Cooper was known for. It was having a surprisingly good bat. It wasn't anything crazy with the home runs, but it was consistent. You look through his averages, 280, 284, 261, 251. So still sat in that range of upper 250s. And, that's kind of what you want from an MLB hitter in a way. 1 for 4 every so often. And was able to put a charge into a couple balls in his 7-year career, 56 home runs. So nothing too crazy. He was clutch for Miami for a lot of times, has 222 RBIs in his career there. So you never know. Maybe he makes the opening day roster with the Cubs and join Bellinger. And maybe he doesn't get that opportunity with them. But you never really know. All you can do is kind of wait to see how things play out. All right, and that kind of wraps up all the moves that happened from the past week. As I said, now that we're getting into spring training, there's less moves. Obviously, there's still a lot of guys that are worth talking about. JD Martinez, Joey Votto, outside of even the top trio now. But I do want to take a little bit of this time here towards the end of this episode and talk about some of the surprises so far this spring training that we've had within this first week here, and talk about some of the storylines. I've written down a couple points here, so I'm just going to kind of bang. And so listen for your team, listen for your players, and see how we go here. We started off the spring training. Of course, we talked about last week how the Dodgers absolutely slaughtered the Padres. Corbin Burns, he made his first start with Baltimore. He looked good, got a couple of strikeouts there. In that game, Colton Cowser, one of Baltimore's young prospects, he hit a walk-off home run to beat Boston, so that was always fun and dandy. How about the new superstars for the Dodgers? Shohei Ohtani, in his first game, he started it with a strikeout and then an RBI double play before hitting an absolute bomb, a 2-run home run for him. So he's already, his first hit is a home run. And then Yamamoto in his first game had 2 innings pitched, 1 hit, 3 Ks. That splitter is nasty. Like, he's going to be a problem this year for MLB hitters. That's to say the least. We've had a lot of high-scoring games. The highest being a Yankees and a Tigers game. The score was 22-10, and I believe it was in that game particular. I'm not exactly sure which game, but Yankees prospect Spencer Jones absolutely blasted a 470-foot bomb. And I mean, blasted. And he's not the only impressive Yankees hitter to hit a home run. Of course, this one's a little bit more well-known. Juan Soto hit a 3-run home run, I believe, in his debut. I'm not sure, against the Blue Jays. He's been tearing up spring, actually, when you look at his batting practice as well. So watch out for him. Just the other day, we had the first matchup of Paul Skeens, I think it's Skeens, versus Jackson Holliday, in which Paul Skeens was blasting 100-mile-an-hour fastballs to Holliday, who ended up grounding out on one of those. He's not the only Pirate to be impressing, Skeens is. Tamar Johnson had a couple of home runs against the Blue Jays as well. He looks really good, one of Pirates' top 3 prospects in their organization as well. Padres catcher Ethan Salasis, he's 17 years old in spring training, and he's doing really well for himself. He got his first hit, and I don't think we've ever had a 17-year-old already, so that's very impressive from him. Jung-Ho Lee with the Giants, he hits his first home run since coming over from the KBO. Of course, this is still spring training, but it's good to see him get some power in there. He had quite the day as well. He had a double in that game. There's a couple of pitchers here leading the way. Ryan Nelson has been lights out for the Diamondbacks so far. 5 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts. Spencer Strider, of course, that's a dominant name. 5 innings pitched, 9 Ks so far this week. And then a couple of hitters that you maybe have heard of, maybe not. Forrest Wall with the Braves. He's been around the league for a little bit here. He's leading the spring right now, tying with home runs and RBIs. 3 home runs, 8 RBIs for him, a .556 average. Then you got a Blue Jay player who, kind of been forgotten by some people, a prospect, Brian Serven. He's got a home run, 8 RBIs to his name already, and a .600 average. And then for me, so far, the player of the week and the player of the spring, top Nationals prospect, James Wood. I think I said in the TOP that this guy's a pitcher. I was way incorrect. He is a hitter and a pure hitter. 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, a .500 average. And those 3 home runs, if you've seen the video, they are tanks. This guy's swing is very nice. I am starting to join the James Wood bandwagon because he looks great right now for the Nationals. I would love to see him up at some point this season. But yeah, those are some of the news stories, I guess, of the spring so far. Miguel Sano with the Angels, he's a non-Rosh invitee. He has slimmed down a lot. He said he lost about 50-something pounds, which is crazy. Alek Manoah, he looked good in terms of fitness, but his start against the Tigers did not go so well. His control issues are still there. So Blue Jays fans, are hoping that he can right himself before the season starts and can return to 2022 form, because the Blue Jays could really use him at the back end of that rotation. But that's the spring, and that's the episode. Much shorter these days now that we're entering the actual baseball year. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. Like I said, I'm not sure when the next episode is going to be, like the next actual episode. Of course, the TOPs are coming out today, and then we have 10 more next week, and then 10 more the following week. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the schedule's looking like for just normal episodes. As we gear up, Circle the Day, Thursday, March 28th, opening day. Super excited for that. But yeah, well, have information as we go. If anything, check out the social media, Instagram and Twitter, or X, I guess, both in the link in the description if you're on YouTube, and you should be able to find it on Buzzsprout or wherever you are listening to this. But thank you, everybody, so much, and I will see you guys next time.